Baseball is back, and there really is nothing like a home team advantage. That's why Team Toyota makes an obvious choice for your next vehicle purchase or service. With their MVP pricing guarantee, teammates reward program, and streamlined customer experience, their award-winning sales and service departments are there for all of your vehicle needs. A home team advantage is nothing without family and community. Their employees are part of the family, they're part of your town, and we're all part of the team. Visit teamtoyota.net and choose one of their 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton.
Baseball is back as we get ready for game 122. The Phillies Talk Podcast is back. I'm Spencer Kircher, joined by Ricky Batalico and Sean Kane. Where do you guys want to start, huh? Is it the swing that saved the season on Wednesday night, Kyle Schwarber's grand slam? Is it the poor outing that they finished up their road trip in Arizona? Or was it Tuesday's disaster by getting shut out by a rookie pitcher?
I think flat out they're still not out of the woods yet. I think Kyle Schwarber had a big swing against the Marlins. And, I mean, you know what? Anytime you hit a grand slam, it's going to kind of boost your team. But one thing did seem to happen. It kind of relaxed everybody on that team. I think you get into certain situations where, the Marlins had just taken game 1. Now you're sitting there in game 2 of a 2-game series, and you're getting beat up early on in that ball game again. I'm sure the thoughts of each and every player on the team went to, I can't believe this is happening again. We're losing to this team again. We're much better than this team. And then the mind kind of takes over. And then you get a big hit like that, and it kind of settles everybody down, settles everybody in. Now all of a sudden the whole game swings, from being down to being up a run. I mean, that always helps. But, I mean, there's still a lot of issues right now with this team, and I still don't think it's one issue, and I'll probably beat this down at some point, is that I really believe that Ranger Suarez is going to have the biggest impact here when he comes back, because if he's good and ready to go and fresh, I think this team could take off again. Put
it on the board, baby. We'll put that.
Yeah, he seemed to look good on earlier in this homestand when he did some up and downs, did some simulated games. So hopefully he is back within a week or two. And obviously that's huge, because I love Tyler Phillips, but I just feel like he's a guy that goes out and he competes, which is great. But is he, a big league quality number 5? Maybe. I feel like he's probably more of like a number 6, like a guy for depth purposes. Taijuan certainly, is the guy that you hope to give you some innings, but he didn't look too great his first start. But so, they need Ranger, because you can tell Christopher Sanchez is getting a little fatigued. He's going to hit a career high in innings, and Nola and Wheeler you can count on. But, they need Ranger, and they need close to the version of Ranger that we saw the first couple months of the season would be excellent. But that was a big win on Wednesday, obviously. The Schwarber hit was huge. I was really impressed with the bullpen and the way Rob Thompson kind of utilized the bullpen. Like once they took the lead, he could tell he got aggressive. He got Phillips out of there, before the 5th even ended, got Ruiz in there, and then just kind of went to the big guys early. He went to Strom, he went to Hoffman, because they needed to win that game last night, man. They couldn't get swept by the Marlins, especially after the way they lost on Tuesday, that lifeless display on Tuesday. And the bullpen was great. And I thought it was nice that they were able to tack on too. JT had a big hit. Marsh got a hit, which he needed. Just thought better at bats across the board. A lot of guys going the opposite way. Harper had a double to left. I thought the at-bats were good. Schwarber's hit was obviously the big hit, but a nice win, a much-needed win. But they got to carry it over now against the Nationals, because they got to win a series. They just haven't been winning many series at all. So 3 out of 4, I think, at least, would be a success here over the weekend.
To tack on them scoring 9 runs in that game, I think on Wednesday may have been the biggest thing, because let's face it, I mean, you look at that Marlins team, they are a AA+ team right now. I mean, and it's not the case that they don't go out and try. I mean, they have a lot of young guys on that team, but I mean, you're facing some pitching that you should light up if you're the Philadelphia Phillies. You put these 2 teams on paper, it's not even close. Yeah. I mean, if you're playing 162 straight games against that team, you're going to win 150. I mean, I really believe something like that. And you just got to look at it for what it is. You put up 9 runs, that makes everybody in your lineup feel good. And I think that's what they needed, because we've seen some games where, Schwarber will hit 3 home runs. The rest of the lineup's pretty quiet. Or Harper takes over with 3 hits. The rest of the lineup's quiet. You needed a game where everybody kind of contributed. And I think that was the type of game that could help the offense out.
For sure. And our poor buddy Christian Pache, obviously on that Marlins team. And then I think the quote was bottom feeders a few years ago. So I think they're back into that aspect. But yeah, it was good to see. And the 9 runs were actually the most runs at home since July 13th against the A's, I believe. It was 11 runs against the A's. July 13th. So that was the most runs they've scored at home in a month. So desperately needed. Do you guys think Rob Thompson switched up the lineup there for Wednesday? Did that have anything? Did the team meeting that it now is confirmed that the guys didn't really speak about it, but it has confirmed that they had a team meeting? Do you think that had any aspect in kind of coming out and scoring 9 runs against a crappy Marlins team?
Well, I don't know. Team meetings are just that. What? Think about this for a second. What is Rob Thompson going to come in and say to a bunch of veterans? Basically, come on, guys, we got to kick it back in gear. We're much better than this. Concentrate on what you're doing. Try to relax a little bit when you're up there. That's all he could say. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't a rah-rah speech. Rob Thompson doesn't seem like that type. And, sometimes those speeches are just speeches. Why do you think they didn't say anything? Because if they lost, then that would have meant nothing. But now that they won, you could say, oh, yeah, we had a team meeting, and that kind of boosted the morale of the ball club. It is what it is. It's a coach talking to the players. It's not, maybe he saw something that he didn't like and he wanted to address it. Rob Thompson addresses it, and it's over, and you go out and play a game. I don't think it has a lot of bearing on a bunch of guys that are veterans to the major league level. But if that was it, congratulations. But I just think they came out and beat a lesser team.
Yeah, I think the team meeting stuff, I agree with Rick that I think the media and people outside tend to make that a bigger deal than it really is. As Ricky said, it's a veteran group. It's the rah-rah speech. I don't know how that really has a big impact. So, they won great. But and the lineup thing, like last night struck me more as just kind of giving Turner a day. And obviously Castellanos goes up to the 2-hole. Sosa gets in the lineup. I'll be interested to see the lineup this series against the Nationals because they're going to face a number of lefties starting tonight. Thursday night, I believe Corbin and Gore also pitch in this series. So we'll see. You would think a lot of Weston Wilson. You would think Sosa's going to get in there. And just give those guys an opportunity because, Marsh, again, had the hit last night and hopefully he gets out of it, but he's been really struggling. Stott, we talked about Stott, I feel like every podcast. Yep. Just like, let's get it going.
But Marsh, the thing that bothers me about Marsh, it's the fastball. He hasn't been hitting the fastball. And this guy, I think a lot of people address him as like he's like a 5'8" guy. He's not. He's 6'3". He's a big guy. He could hit the ball out of the yard. And his bread and butter in the past has been hitting the fastball. And right now, he just hasn't been timing it very well. Just looks a little bit off kilter. I think a lot of them, that's really what it has come down to offensively. But, let's face it, it hasn't just been the offense. The Phillies have been, you look at the last couple of games, you're down in the first couple innings. It's an uphill climb. You don't want to play baseball like that all the time. And then you look ahead to Thursday, you got Zach Wheeler. I think that's almost like a breath of fresh air. It's like, all right, Wheeler can go out there, put up a bunch of zeros, and maybe the team could, put on some runs early and maybe start a winning streak because of that.
Yeah. And I think the breath of fresh air and the sigh of relief was off Kyle Schwarber's bat on Wednesday night. Just the nice. Okay.
He's
big hit, right?
That's a big hit, right? That's a big hit. That's a huge hit.
It's easy to hit.
That's right.
Tell you what.
Right. And kind of going back in the pitching, that is the 5th straight game that a starter has let up a run in the first inning. And that has to stop. And I think, Rick, you're exactly right that Zach Wheeler is his breath of fresh air here come Thursday. Because I'll tell you what wasn't a breath of fresh air. And it kind of, I don't know what your expectations were, your guys' expectations were, but Tuesday was not a breath of fresh air with Taijuan Walker coming back, making his first start since June 21st, through, I think, 34, 35 pitches in the first, finished with like 76, didn't have any command. Do you think that he kind of accredited to a little bit of rust, but do you buy that, Rick?
Well, what do you accredit at the beginning of the season to then, rust? I mean, I just think he's lost something. He's definitely lost some velocity. We all know that. He was 95, 96 last year at certain times during the season. And what does that do? It makes your split finger that much more. It makes it more effective. And when you lose speed, you could spit on that pitch. You see that pitch coming from a mile away now. And I think the understanding of he has to try to throw that for strikes too now, that's not good either. Because how many times did you watch him pitch last year where he threw that split and it never was a strike, but he was getting swings and swings and swings on it, or foul tips on it, which sets something else up. You have to be able to set it up. The fastball has to be able to set everything up. And I will say this much, because this was my belief of watching that game. We always crab about the umpires, and we always crab that it's against the Phillies. In this case, he was getting 6 to 8 inches off the plate in the left-handed batter's box. Why did he keep coming over the plate? And it's a simple thing. You're out there. You're watching the umpire give you the 6 to 8 inches off the plate on your fastball. Keep going out there until he calls it balls. Then you start moving back over the plate. If he's going to give you the 6 to 8 inches, you take it. And I think that's just one of those things where he always wants to go back to the split finger, and he left a couple of those up in the zone, and we saw what happens. I don't know. I think it's velocity more than anything else, and I don't say that for a lot of pitchers. Aaron Nola doesn't need velocity. I think Wheeler could pitch with anything. Ranger pitches at 90, 91 miles an hour. So there's certain guys who know how to pitch. There's other guys that can't seem to set up their out pitches.
Yeah, my expectations for this version of Walker is just to eat innings, like give you 5 innings. If you can get 6, great. But if you can go 5 innings and give up 3 runs, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with Taijuan Walker, just to keep guys fresh. Like, you need him in the rotation. You don't need the Kirkering opener, bulk innings, Colby Allard. You don't need that. Take your turn in the rotation, keep these guys fresh. We keep waiting for the 6-man rotation. If Ranger comes back, we'll see if they want to do that and keep Phillips in it, just to give these guys some extra time here in the dog days. But September is kind of almost not right around the corner, but a couple of weeks away.
We're here, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just got Sanchez. I mentioned that earlier. I feel like he's kind of needs a breather. So just get Walker in that rotation, eating some innings, taking the ball every 5th game or 6th game. And that's kind of what I want from him. I don't have much higher expectations.
Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on OpenTable.
Okay, so is the hand far away from the panic button now? Is it still hovering it? Or we're here? Are we here? Where are we at? If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening in the car.
Sean, you could start this.
Well, I'm grateful that the Braves and Mets haven't been able to get much traction.
That's my point.
Because if they were playing, it could get real interesting in the East. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and, Ricky and I were talking about this earlier. You got other teams, not in the division, but in the National League, like the Padres and the Diamondbacks, who are kind of making their way up the NL standings. They've both been red hot. And if you look at it now, like, the division still appears comfortable-ish, but, the race for home field, they're behind the Dodgers now, and teams are getting closer to them. The Brewers are creeping up on them, the Diamondbacks, and the Padres are creeping up. So, you got to get it going, unless you're going to end up, you can still win the division and play a wild card series. And you have one of these hot wild card teams come into your place, like the Phillies did, with St. Louis a few years back and knock them off. And we saw, I believe, the Brewers last year lost a wild card series. So, a best of 3 series, anything can happen. You want to avoid that at all costs. And they're kind of in that danger zone right now. So that's kind of where I'm at with the panic button.
There's different panic buttons here. I mean, a panic button for the way they've been playing lately, I think it's already been hit. I mean, but when you still look up, I think you have a very valid point that they're still in first place in the East. The Mets are the Mets. They're going to Met at some point during the season, and they had an opportunity. They snuck up there. They were 6 out, 6.5 out at one point.
Yeah, they got hot.
And of course, they go in the other direction. That's just the Mets metting. And I think the Phillies have gotten awfully lucky in the sense that Strider's out for the season. Acuna's been out. Albies is out. Harris is out for the Braves. And that's all at the same time. I mean, you can't make up for that. I don't care what kind of team you are. I don't care who you have left on the team. You're still not going to make up for those guys. So the panic button for the NL East for me is not even there. I think the panic button to get back to the point where you're ready to be in the playoffs, that's the one where you kind of want to hit it but you have the Nationals in for 4. This is a team that you should take care of. You should win 3 or 4 over this long weekend. And if you don't, well, then it's back to the drawing board and the fans are going to start panicking again. But it's just one of those things where you got to come to the ballpark ready to win every day. And they were like that for 2 months. And then it kind of just got off the rails. But it's everybody. And we've seen the bullpen go off the rails. We've seen the starting rotation kind of all over the place at times. And we've seen the hitting go back to what they were doing in game 6 and 7 of the NLCS last year. I think that's the biggest thing. I think especially fan base wise, they want to go back to game 6 and 7, say, see, this is what this team is. You're wrong. This is a much better team than that.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. We were talking about it last night a little bit at the ballpark with our good buddy Matt Gelb. Kind of put it into perspective. The Phillies started 28-32 last season in 2023. That's what they started. They started 28-32. Before last night's win, they were 28-32 in their last 60 games. So just to put that into perspective, everything's okay. Obviously, they got hot when they needed to. They got cold when they didn't need to last year in the playoffs. Let's just hope this is just a nice little stretch of just getting back to winning baseball. Go ahead.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah, sure.
Where do you rank them right now in the playoffs? Oof. Like, where do you rank them?
In the National League or just in all baseball?
I will say this much. Mid-June, I'd have said this team's winning the World Series.
I can't – in the National League, I know they've taken 2 series from the Dodgers, but, like, if they're playing the Dodgers in a 7-game series right now, I don't think they're the favorites. But, we'll see. Obviously, the Dodgers getting Mookie Betts back, and we can get on all that pitching they're going to get back. I don't know how you feel good about them beating the Diamondbacks in the series after what we just saw in Arizona. Yeah. The Padres have been hot. You get the American League, the Yankees, the Orioles. I think there's a handful of teams out there. I wouldn't be too excited to play. Cleveland, they dropped to a 3-2. I don't know. Milwaukee doesn't really scare me. We'll see how they do out there in a few weeks. But
so right now you got one team that's going to be a playoff team that doesn't scare you.
Milwaukee, yeah. And then whoever that maybe, I don't know if the Braves will be the third wild card or whoever that in the Mets. But yeah, I know what you're getting at, and I agree. Like, you can't feel great about them being a shoe-in to the World Series or even a shoe-in to the NLCS right now. There's a lot of teams in the National League playing a lot better baseball than they have for the last month.
And I guess to go along with that, what would make us feel better in that sense?
Going to Kansas City and Atlanta and taking 4-6. 5-6.
Yeah, beating some good teams. Like, we made a big deal of it on pregame and postgame. They had that stretch out of the All-Star break where they played 22 straight against teams who had a winning record at the time the Phillies played them, including the Pirates. And 7-15, I think, was the final tally there. So that obviously isn't very comforting. But yeah, they got to start beating some good teams. This road trip coming up will be Atlanta's always tough for them. Kansas City's a lot better. So we'll see. But
it's going to be interesting because I think this team always gets up for games against Atlanta. And could that be the return point? Could that be the point where they kind of lock back into a playoff type team? And yes, I know you play the 22 teams and everybody will say, well, those are all playoff teams. They're never going to be able to win in the playoffs. This is a team that on paper could be better than anybody once the playoffs come. If everybody's going on all cylinders, and it's got to include the 3 aspects: the starting rotation, the bullpen, and obviously the offense. And they all have to be able to carry each other at one point or another. But I really believe that the adrenaline level could kind of step up. End of August, you're going into Atlanta, and I think that could be a big time series for them.
For sure.
If they go in there and take care of Atlanta and they feel good about it, I think the fans will start feeling good about this team.
As we ride right into September too, which would just be a perfect get ready for fall. Get ready for, a playoff push here. And I think,
Rick, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I know, Rick, you would sign up. You would have signed up for 19-20 games over 500, 6-7 game lead in the division. I know Ricky's a big believer in that. So
right.
Sign up beginning of the season where they are right now on August 15th.
Right.
Yeah. Sign me up for a World Series championship. I would have signed up for that too.
There it is. No doubt.
Sorry.
No. And I think what hit me, that was good. That was good, Kaner. I think what hit me was the fact that they can only lose 12 more games if they won 100 wins. And they were at one point
114 they were on pace for.
Insane. And now it's okay, now you can afford 12 more losses.
But is that
at
where
70
the disappointment comes in? Really, what are we really?
No.
I said before the season started, 100 wins and they win the East.
Yeah.
And people said I was absolutely out of my mind. So
no, but I just think it kind of hits you of like how big the stretch has been that, they were on pace for 100.
How they stack up with the 76 team,
Yeah.
the 73 team,
the 01 Mariners.
Record through 60 games.
Yeah.
And now it's lucky to get to 100.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And let's hope that they can. And it starts with this series
well,
too.
Baseball, it really is.
Right.
It really is. It's a tough game. It really is.
Right.
All they have to do is thrive the rest of the season. I think they can really get going in the right direction.
Again, for anyone listening, I'm wearing a shirt that says Thrive. Shout out to St. Luke's Hospital up in Allentown. Shout out to Dr. Murillo. But it's kind of moving on here, kind of off topic stuff. There was a report came out from ESPN today that said there's a rule that MLB's may be looking into of making starters go 6 innings, no matter what. They want starters to be more prominent. They want more offense. I read that article and was completely dumbfounded.
I love it.
Do you? I mean,
the idea.
You want to see some offense start?
But then look at George Kirby the other day with the Mariners, who let up 13 hits, 11 earned runs, and like an inning and a third.
Well, there's going to be stipulations.
Like, is there a pitch limit? Like,
Yeah,
if the
there's
guy
probably
gets
like
like
if
pitches, you can get him out.
Yeah, because then you have to bring in the white
If you're getting
flag.
your ass handed to you, you can't leave them out there.
Right.
I mean,
More than 5 runs.
Yeah, there's got to be some kind of certain point where you say, yeah, I got to take them out of the game.
Well, because then it was something like, if you did that, if your pitcher didn't go 5 innings, you lost your DH for the rest of the game.
Interesting.
Okay. So
And I guess they're trying in the Atlantic League. Shout out to the York Revolution, 717. But don't give me that look. But it is. They've tried. They've obviously in 2023 was the biggest rule implements ever in baseball, with the bigger bases, the pickoffs being limited, the banning of the shift, the universal DH, and now they have this.
They want Major League Baseball to be batting practice.
Right, but like if you're starting pitch, and like in my opinion, you have Paul Skeens now coming up.
Yeah, just get the old pitching machine and put it out there.
Maybe the curveball machine.
Yeah, you have 2 machines out there.
Gabe
break a ball. One of them throws a fastball.
How happy do you think Gabe would be?
Right.
Well, he's profiling quite well.
I like the idea of getting back to where starting pitching is more prominent. Like when I was growing up, starting pitchers were you go 6-7 innings, and if you don't, that was a big disappointment. Now, if a guy gets through 5, it's like, oh my god, what an outing!
Yeah. Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird that like see? That's why I don't appreciate the guys. We used to call them 5 and dies. Like literally, we remember Mark Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
We would tell him right to his face, "What do you got, 5, and then you're done today?"
Yeah.
He used to come down the bullpen, warm up in the bullpen, and say, "Guys, be ready." Really? Thanks a lot.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks. And back then we only had 5 or 6 relievers.
Right. You didn't.
So it was like,
guys
oh man, we're gonna get worn out today. You know?
Yep.
But it is what it is. I don't like the way they do it. I think you could add more offense, even if you let. But the problem is that's got to start down below. You can't just. It almost has stuff. Well, it does. They still do it in college, so I think it's got to start in rookie ball. I mean, when they come up, there's no more. Everybody throws a maximum of 50 pitches. There's organizations out there that do that through their lower levels.
Mm-hmm.
Max of 50 pitches.
It's crazy.
It's pathetic.
Yeah. For sure. And there wouldn't be as much emphasis on velocity either if you got to figure out ways to navigate a lineup and actually pitch.
And that's look at the Phillies rotation. Are they there?
No.
They have pitchers in their rotation.
For sure.
I mean, they're not bringing up guys that are throwing 102 miles an hour, waiting for them to blow out. I mean, you look at Paul Skeens. Yeah, he may be a freak of nature, but I bet you if you asked 9 out of 10 fans would say, yeah, at some point he's going to blow his either an elbow or shoulder out.
Which stinks.
Yep.
Which stinks. But also just so looking at my notes, there's a few things that I wanted to hit real quick. And I know this guy's got to get to radio here, but 22-3 when Kyle Schwarber homers. I'll say I was over at the ballpark last night on Wednesday, and it was dead. Like after the first inning home run to put him down 3-0, it was the most dead I've seen that ballpark in years. And then Schwarber, I would argue that was the loudest moment of the year after he hit that home run. It was insane. It felt like a playoff game when he hit the grand slam.
Those are good fans. They know when a necessity is there.
Yeah. And like, it wasn't even booze. It was like creepy almost. Like
That's
it was
all
just
Tuesday night was.
Yeah.
There was some booze on Tuesday.
Tuesday there was booze.
Yeah. But just like,
it was weird.
How do you think these players took to that?
I was saying
Rob Thompson brought it up in his presser
right.
about the boos, but I wonder how the players took to it. I mean, you're looking at a guy, Trey Turner, who played like garbage last year and got a standing ovation.
Right. We were kind of saying it too. We were talking to our good buddy Alex Coffey yesterday in the press box too. It's almost like they were kind of like, they're like afraid now. Like it's like they're walking on eggshells because they don't want to piss off the fans even more. But that's obviously hurting you tenfold. Like it is, you're scared of the plate. Bohm slamming his helmet after every,
And his bat. He wants to break that bat.
Yeah, which I don't blame him. Yeah, the second to last thing here, and then I want your real quick thoughts on something else. But me and Ben Davis were talking about it at the ballpark last night. The 2 runs that they generated to make it 3-2 was a walk in both innings in the third and fourth, or second and third, whatever it was.
One inning didn't even have a hit.
Didn't have a hit. Walk, stolen base twice,
Yep.
and then a ground ball brings the run home. Obviously, we were saying, like, if the offense is going, they're going to have to start stealing more. It was crazy. JT Realmuto, I think, only has 1 stolen base this season. Obviously, the knee. But, like, do you want to see them start stealing bags more?
I don't want to see JT do anything.
Yeah.
Until the playoffs.
Well, not just JT, but just the team in
I'd
general.
like to see Rojas do that.
Correct.
He's a guy that can get stuff going with his legs a little bit and be a bigger part of the offense for sure.
Yeah.
But are they afraid? Because he's batting 9th and you
Yeah.
have Schwarber behind him. You send him, then you got an open base.
Yeah.
And he's had a few base running blunders, Rojas, this year, getting picked off a few times. So he's probably a little tentative to make outs on the base pass with those guys hitting behind him. But anyhow, I just like to see him be a little more of a dynamic presence.
Yeah, because I feel like they were attacking, like, even in the playoffs last year and kind of the end of the season last year and the beginning of this, they were swiping everything.
But also they've had a lot of hamstring injuries.
Correct.
So maybe Rob's kind of very wary about that.
That's a good point. That's a great point. All right, last thought as we wrap up. The Olympics finished up. Great time. Shout out to Peacock. That was incredible. If you were watching, the Gold Zone was incredible. Bo and then Sean, what sport in the Olympics would you not embarrass yourself the most?
Handball.
No chance.
Wow.
Handball.
Wow.
You think you could get in there? There was the Norwegian goalkeeper in the women's, 44 years old, dominant goalkeeper.
Although that's what I would watch. What I would sit there and watch.
No. What are you
watch
participating
close up
in?
would be the Norwegian pole vaulting team.
There you go.
Copy.
Women's pole vaulting.
Uh-huh.
There it is.
I don't know. Embarrass myself. Like any of those, like individual, like anything track or field or
I'm
swimming.
not running.
or-
I wouldn't
yeah, I
even
know.
start,
I
they'd be done.
see some of these distance runs, and these guys are running faster than I can sprint after like running 10 laps prior to that. I don't know. I feel like I could get out there on the wing in basketball and play with some of
That's
those
right.
dudes and
That's
take a few
right.
jumpers. And defensively, I'd probably embarrass myself. But handle the ball a little bit,
Yeah.
swing the ball
Play for
around.
Zimbabwe or
Look for
something.
Steph,
Yeah.
set a screen for Steph.
Yeah.
That's probably my best answer. I don't know what other sport
What's
I would be.
yours, Cobra?
To be honest, I couldn't think of anything. I thought, if anything, they had that, like, the speed bike racing, like where the little track and stuff, dude.
We'd be
I love a
picking
good
you up
bike.
Off the ground.
That's okay. I'm
Blood everywhere.
still gonna finish last, but I don't literally know what else I
Go
could
with
handle.
handball. Put a handball. team
Handball.
together.
All right. Well,
Not the one in the pool.
no, that's water polo.
Water
this
polo
is
is tough.
handball.
All right,
Yeah,
that-
there's
that
no
is
way water
no
polo.
joke.
No, there's no way.
Breakdancing?
Breakdancing.
Well, you can't do any worse than that one moment.
the Ray gun from
Ray gun.
Australia. Yeah, good for her.
That was awful.
If you saw that, God bless. All right, we're wrapping up Alumni Weekend this weekend. Shout out to Dave Montgomery. He'll be honored on Sunday. It's always Alumni Weekend is always
Great
the
man,
best. It's
David Montgomery.
the best, man. And
Great man.
I will forever be grateful for Michael Barkan introducing me to Dave Montgomery down in spring training. Incredible human being. His wife was the best. So
Shout out to our favorite Phillies alumni sitting across the table here.
that's right. Are you gonna participate in anything this weekend, or?
No, I think I'm joining the train team and finally going to see my own family that I haven't seen in
Nice.
months.
There you go.
Nice.
Shout out to Connecticut. Shout out to the fam.
Yep.
So, well, hey, this has been Phillies Talk. Let's hope for all good things as they can continue. Do not hit that, Ricky. So let's continue this roll. 4 games with the Nats, then on to Atlanta and Kansas City next weekend, or next week, I should say. Let's hope they can keep the train rolling. For Sean Kane, for Ricky Vitalico, I'm Spencer McKercher. We'll catch you guys next week.